Good day and welcome to our watercolor journey. Today we're going to do this little forest scene, and it's really inspired by the work by Igor Kaikov. The materials I used is listed here, and I will also add it to the description list. So the first process is just a basic outline of a sketch. I do not want to be precise in the sketching because I want the paint to flow and create its own magic, and then water on the paper just so that the paint can flow. So now I'm starting with my blue for the sky. So this first step is basically just to cover most of the white of the paper, because I don't want to keep a lot of it, but I still want the layers to be very transparent. So this is what we can call basically underpainting. So just lay in your colors where you want them to be. One thing about Igor's work is he really knows how to play with sunlight. And I'm just trying to capture that also in this painting. For the sun, I used a yellow watercolor pencil so that I don't have any lines and marks from a regular grey pencil or graphite pencil. So adding some details where I want some of the trees to be. I'm going to play a lot with my blues, greens and yellows. And I think if you've seen some of my paintings so far, I love to let the color mix on the paper itself, and then it creates beautiful magic on its own. Because one of the risks that you stand if you mix your paints beforehand is sometimes that you can overmix it, and then you do not get that spontaneous effect of the watercolor's own special effects. I love this initial layer of watercolor, the wet on wet stage. Remember, it depends on what painting you do, if you're going to do wet on wet or wet on dry. So, but as you can see, I'm leaving a lot of light still in the painting. I'm just trying to skip a little bit of the areas where I put those little circles for flowers in the foreground. And I'm just building up layers also in that initial stage. And I'm really putting my whole palette to use. And I'm working with warmer colors, cooler colors, just to get that beautiful contrast. At this stage, once again, your initial layer always looks like a lot of chaos. Everything just comes together as your painting develops later on and you start adding details. One thing about a limited sketch is you can see where you need to add some colors, need to add some interest, and just let your painting be more spontaneous. So please let your painting dry. So this is what we've got now. I'm quite pleased with what I have at the moment. So now I'm going wet and dry, and I'm starting with my blues and my greens, and just trying to get variety in my brush strokes and my colors. Try to leave some gaps in between, because you want some gaps for your tree branches and trunks. Once again, you will see that I'm working on the left hand side and the right hand side, so that things can just be a little bit more consistent, because otherwise it can maybe look like two different people that painted your painting. So there we go to the left hand side again, because we're moving closer to the sun now, so I want those colors to become lighter and warmer as we get to the sun side. And still leaving my gaps for the tree trunks that's going to come. Yeah, I just do a lot of dots and dashes, because I want to have my painting to have a real painterly feel to it. We're just creating the illusion of trees and foliage in the background. And you can see the transparency of the watercolor coming through. You can see I'm just blending out at the bottom, because I do not want a hard edge at this moment. The harder edges will only come later on when I start doing details. As you can see there, once again, I'm working right hand side and really playing around with the colors, because I really want that warm and cool colors to work together, and lots of gaps. And I'm already starting to build up darker values. remember, always have a plan of the basic idea of what you want to paint and decide on the colors that you want to use. Because painting is definitely about some planning, and then also when you start to paint, watercolor doesn't always work exactly the way that you think it's going to react, and then you improvise to see that everything works together. Once again, blending out the bottom of a part that I painted now. And as you can see, I'm working around some areas. So it's basically like negative painting, just to create lighter areas for my flowers. And I'm really creating variety within the colors that I'm using. So I decided I wanted a few little yellow flowers also in between. So I'm adding them now. And then I'm going back with this circle method, and as I come to the bottom, I'm really starting to enhance the colors that they're darker, and I'm not very precise in how big the patterns is going to be, because I really want variety. And obviously I think as you come to the bottom, the sizes will become a little bit bigger, because this is more in the foreground. I really love to work with the lavender. It cools down an area very quickly because it's a beautiful cool color. And remember, you can change certain areas if something doesn't work for you. While it's still wet, you can do a lot, and if something doesn't work, just dab it out and then go over it again. Here you can see again, the colors are really getting darker to the bottom. It sounds like I'm really repeating myself quite a bit here. And I'm just adding some colors at the bottom. So much fun to play around with your color mixes, and that they create their own interesting effects. With this, I create quite a bit of contrast, but I'm also going to use some permanent white gouache later on, just to enhance certain flowers. And still building up the values at the bottom. And you can see on the right hand side by the trees, I really created a dark area because it's quite a distance from the sun, so you do get shadows in that area. So working with lots of light and dark, cooler and warmer colors. Just splatting in a little bit of water just to create a few more effects in the area. And there I go, darker again, because as we know, watercolor fades back quite a bit, and I definitely want that bottom area to be much darker than the tree area. Let your painting dry, and this is what we've got at the moment. So now it's time to add the tree trunks. I'm using a Chinese calligraphy brush. It's beautiful and fine and makes perfect lines for me. And you can see I'm working in between the gaps of a tree's foliage. One reason that I'm working on the left hand side and the right hand side with the tree trunks is also just to get a balance and a feel for what I exactly want there. And as you can see, closer to the sun, the colors will be warmer. Just a few branches and twigs. There at the bottom of the trees is some shadows, so definitely adding a little bit more value there just to create the effect of shadows. And once again, I'm not doing a lot of little tweaks on the side. It's just an illusion to give a effect of trees and branches coming out from them. And once again at the bottom, creating darker areas, just playing around and adding a little bit more foliage and doing a little bit of dry brush. Because you definitely want some variety in your brushwork. So I'm just working with a little bit more details and adding more value in certain areas just so that you can get dimension in your painting, because you do not want a flat monotone color. And you can see each brush mark changes your painting and gives it more life. Just enhancing some of the tree trunks and creating darker foliage, especially on the right hand side, because that has more shadow areas and it's further from the sun. You always want variety in your color combination, just to create interest. I really love this part of a painting where you just add some things just to bring interest. Just creating a few little twigs and little stems for the flowers, and this also helps with the detail. And then you can see it's getting even darker areas. So let your painting dry again. So I think this is how far we are now. Now I'm going to use the white gouache just to bring in some flowers again, so it's more distinguishable. I know a lot of artists prefer to use only the white of the paper, but there's definitely no problem in using white gouache, or you can even use a Posca pen or a pastel. You can even use white acrylic paint. So there's a variety of ways that you can create this effect. So add your flowers where you want them. I'm just mixing in a little bit of color with her gouache. Then I get a more opaque paint, and I'm enhancing some of the yellow flowers also now with this. And you can see that they're standing out much clearer. And now I'm using it in the trees also, just to bring a few lighter areas. And I decided I need a few more darker areas in the foreground. Also adding a few darker values once again in the trees, and even a little bit of a white, So I really just want some interest. Sometimes you just need to be so careful when you work with this part of a painting, because you can really overdo it, and sometimes definitely less is more. So this is our final painting. So please like, subscribe and comment for me. Thank you for watching. See you next time.